Hey everybody, this is Justin, aka Demonic Sweaters, your guide for DIY multimedia production, and today I want to talk about podcasting. You know, podcasting is something that a lot of people want to do, but they don't really know where to start. There's a lot of services out there that try to charge you money so you can upload your podcast to their site, and they'll distribute it for you, and they'll do most of the work for you. And that's fine. If you want to pay the money and have them do it, you can do that. But what if you don't have a lot of money, or you just don't want to pay anybody to do it? There's other ways that you can do this, and you can have 100% creative control. You can edit it yourself, you can record it yourself, you can do Skype interviews, you can upload the podcast yourself, everything you can do yourself, and you don't have to pay anybody anything. All you need to do is know where to put the stuff and where to submit the correct links, and you can have your own podcast. I'm going to show you where you can host your podcast for free, how you can have your podcast distributed to all the podcast networks, how you can edit your podcast, how you can record Skype calls. All you're going to need is a microphone and a computer, and you're ready to podcast. So what kind of equipment are you going to need for your podcast? As I mentioned in the introduction video, all you're really going to need are a microphone and a computer. Now for a microphone, I suggest using an Archeer podcasting microphone that you can pick up on Amazon. Now sure, there are a lot better microphones out there, but if you're looking to save money, this microphone is only $23, and it's basically geared directly towards podcasters. It has a built-in preamp, which uses phantom power, and a lot of times when you buy a condenser microphone, you need a phantom power supply source. But this microphone actually comes with a special cable that has a USB cable and an audio jack cable. Now the way that this works is the USB cable plugs into your computer and provides the phantom power for the microphone. It doesn't provide audio. You use your built-in microphone jack or audio jack on your computer for the microphone. Now, if you have a Macintosh that doesn't have an audio input, then you would want a different mic. You would probably want one that has a USB only connection. Sorry, that's the wrong side. USB only connection that transmits both audio and power through the USB. The other options would be to use a built-in microphone or a webcam microphone, but of course those aren't going to provide as good as audio quality as a condenser mic. And there's a lot of different options, but this one is good if you just want to get started and don't want to spend a lot of money and you have a regular audio input on your computer that you can plug into. This will get you going right away. But if you do want to purchase one of these, I provided a link in the written part of the lesson, and you can buy one of these for about $23 on Amazon. All right, and of course the other piece of equipment you're going to need is a computer. This is an older MacBook. This is exactly like the one I'm using, even though this isn't the one I'm using. But it's just an older 2008 MacBook, just the regular MacBook. You can use pretty much any computer, but these do have the built-in audio inputs and outputs, and a lot of PCs have that as well. And the only thing that I would say is that the new MacBooks, they don't have audio inputs. So you would need a USB microphone or USB audio interface if you were using a new MacBook. Now, as far as equipment, that's pretty much all you're going to need. Everything else is software, and the main software that you're going to be using is Audacity, and I'm going to show you that in the next lesson. Everything else is going to be done online through services, free websites and services that are available online, and I'm going to go through all of that with you here. So let's go ahead and get started. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask in the comments. And yeah, let's move on to lesson 2. All right, so what are we going to be editing our podcast in? Well, what we're going to use is a very common program that most people use for podcasting called Audacity. And Audacity is a free program that's available online. And if you're using Linux, like I recommended that you do, It is very easy to install. All you're going to do is go into your terminal and type in sudo apt get install Audacity. And then press enter and it'll install Audacity for you. And that is if you're using Ubuntu or Debian. If you're using a Red Hat based installation of Linux, I'm not actually sure. I think there's another command for that, but I don't use any of those. So, sorry, I don't have a tip on that. But if you are a user of one of those, I'm sure you know how to install software already. So you could just install Audacity that way. If you are using Windows or Mac, you can just go to audacityteam.org/download and download the correct version for whatever operating system that you're using. Once you have Audacity installed, this is where we're going to be doing most of our recording for your podcast. So Audacity, I have a lot of tutorials on my YouTube page teaching you how to use Audacity if you don't know. But it is a very easy to use program. It's very easy to edit. And real quickly, I'll just go over a few things. Once you have your microphone plugged in and it's set up and working, which mine is right now, and you can see the level right there, all you have to do is click that little bar up there to get your recording level. So I'm going to go ahead and record a little bit of what I'm saying here. And then we're going to use this as an example. Say this were a podcast. We're going to use this as an example to show you how to do some editing for a podcast. So I'm just going to keep talking a little bit longer so we have some more to work with here. And then we're going to go ahead and edit this. So let's stop that. Let's go ahead and save it. Oops. Save project as. I'm going to go into Audacity, create folder, podcast example. Example 1. Okay. So we have that saved. Let's go ahead and play a little bit back. How to do some editing for a podcast. So I'm just going to keep talking a little bit longer so we have some more to work with here. And okay. So say this is our podcast and we talked and we want to edit some of this stuff out. Like, let's edit out that throat clearing there. And all you're going to have to do is just click it on the edge and drag over to the end. And then press your delete key on your keyboard. And there we go. Just deletes that right out of there. Longer, so we have some more to work with here. And then we're going to... Okay. So easy, right? Okay, so we made our edit. Now let's say we wanted to add some music in this podcast. So let's go into import. We're going to go to file and then import and then audio. You don't want to do open because that'll open a full new project. We want to keep the same project, so we're just going to file and then import audio. And then let's go into music here. And I'm just going to select anything. I'll just select one of my songs. And now it imported that into a full other track, as you can see right here. So say we don't want to use this entire song, we just want to use a little clip of it. So what we're going to do first, we're going to solo this track so we can just hear this. And that's what this button does right here. And let's play that back. Skip forward a little bit. To skip forward, all you need to do is click anywhere in this timeline area up here, wherever that line is, and it'll automatically start playing from where you click. So right here. Okay, so I'm going to select a little snippet of music right here. I'm going to highlight that, and then press the Control key on my keyboard and the letter C for copy. If you're using a Mac, it's Apple C. And then after I copy that, I'm just going to close this track completely here. Alright, then I'm going to unsolo this track. And let's zoom back in. If we click this icon right here with a magnifying glass and the 2 arrows pointing in. That will zoom into the whole project. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go to tracks and add new, and add a new blank stereo track. And then I'm going to click where I want my music to be. So let's say right here, and then I'm going to paste that in there. Control V for paste. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little area, where the music starts, and I'm going to split this track so we can move part of that over. So we're going to go to Edit, and then Clip Boundaries, Split. Or you can just press Control I. And once we did that, we're going to click on this little double arrow icon right here, and we can slide this over now. Okay, let's slide that over to about right here. Now you'll notice, this music, since I just did a cut, it's pretty abrupt. Let me slide that over a little bit. Slide that there. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see things. There we go. And let's switch back to our main edit tool right here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a fade in and a fade out on this music so it kind of gradually comes in for the talking. So we're going to go ahead and highlight this area of the music, and you see those little gold lines that pop up there? That just means that you're basically snapping to the edge of each section. So that's what you want to do. You want to see those lines. And then once you highlight that, you're just going to go to Effect and then Fade In. Somewhere here. There it is. And then on this side, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go highlight that, except instead of fade in, we're going to do fade out. We're going to go to Effect and then Fade Out. All right, now let's play that back and listen as an example to show you how to do some editing for a podcast. So I'm just going to keep talking a little bit longer so we have some more to work with here. Okay, so you see that's a great way where you can either add music, or if you have a commercial or an ad that you wanted to add in, that's pretty much how you do it. And this same process goes for using basically everything in Audacity. You're just going to be cutting and pasting and moving things around. If you said some things in there you don't want to talk about, you can just delete them out. It's pretty easy to use, and you'll get the hang of it very quickly. Once you make all of your edits in your podcast that you want to make, then what you're going to do is you're going to go to File, and then Export Audio. And let's go in here to our podcasts again. Where was that? I believe in my recordings. Audacity. Podcast example. There we go. So I'm just going to export this file. Now what I'm going to do is export it as an MP3 file, because this is what podcasts use. So for these, it's okay to use variable, and quality 5 is fine. That's usually about CD quality. It's going to be a compressed file, but podcasts tend to be pretty long, so you don't want it to be too high quality, because the file will end up being huge. 5 is fine. You could go a little higher than that if you want, but I always use 5, and it tends to work fine for me. And then you're just going to leave it at joint stereo, and then click Save. And then it's going to give you a... Oh, whoops, sorry. This is a glitch in Linux. It tries to put this AIF extension on there for some reason. So just make sure that the extension, the .mp3 is there when you're exporting as MP3. And then we're going to save it. It's going to say your tracks will be mixed down to 2 stereo channels in the exported file, which is fine. That's exactly what you want. Click OK. Here you could put in your metadata. This is going to be what like if somebody's playing back your podcast as an MP3 in an MP3 player, this is what's going to show up on the title. So what you want to put in here is like the name of your podcast. You could do like Demonic Sweaters Podcast or whatever yours is called, and we could say episode number 1, example, album title, all right. If you want to put a link to your website there or something, you can. But so let's go ahead and click OK on that. And now it exported an MP3. So if we go into that folder and take a look, let's go in here. I'm going to go into my recordings folder where I put that, into Audacity, and then podcast example, wherever that was. And there it is, MP3. So let's take a listen. A little bit of what I'm saying here. And then we're going to use this as an example. Say this were a podcast. We're going to use this as an example to show you how to do some editing for a podcast. So I'm just going to keep talking a little bit longer so we have some more to work with here. Okay, and that's pretty much it. That's how you're going to be editing a podcast within Audacity. Once we get further along, we're going to talk about how you're going to record Skype interviews and then import those into Audacity and edit those into your podcast. But for right now, let's go ahead and move on to the next lesson. Okay, so once we have a podcast created and you exported it to an MP3, now we're going to set up the accounts that we need to set up to basically distribute your podcasts to all of the podcast networks. So this is going to be done basically using 3 different services, and one of them is archive.org. And this is one that basically is going to be hosting your MP3 files. And archive.org is a very popular website. It's basically an online library if you're not familiar. But there's all kinds of stuff on here. There's a lot of podcasts on here already. And it is free to register an account, and you can upload as many podcasts as you like, and you never have to pay. So this is why I use this as opposed to SoundCloud. I know some people use SoundCloud, but SoundCloud is a private company, whereas archive.org is nonprofit or not-for-profit, and SoundCloud actually looks like that they are in trouble and may be going out of business pretty soon. So all the people hosting their podcasts on SoundCloud might be all going away very soon. So better not use SoundCloud. Better to use archive.org, at least for the time being. But this is just one step. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to create an account. So you would just go to sign in, and then here, I already have an account, so I'm not going to do this. But you would just go, instead of log in, you're going to go click on register for free. And then once you do that, you will have an account for archive.org. After that, what you're going to do is go to a website called blogger.com. And this is actually owned by Google. And what you're going to do with this is you're just going to go right here and just click on create your blog, unless you already have a Blogger account. If you already have a Blogger account, you can use the one that you already have. And then right here, it's just going to ask you to sign in using your Google credentials. So again, I'm not going to do that yet because I already have one. I'm just showing you where to sign up. And one last one that we're going to use is the website called feedburner. So it's just feedburner.com. And this is another Google service. And again, it's just going to ask you for your Google sign-in credentials once you get to there. So do the Blogger one first. If you don't have a Google account, you probably do, but if you don't for some reason, create that first, and then create your Blogger account, and then create your FeedBurner account. You can do the archive.org account before or after either of those. It doesn't really matter. But once you get all of those set up, let me get out of Firefox here because I have them open in Chrome. Let me log back into my archive.org. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is create your blog for your podcast. And the reason for this, let me just show you what mine is. I'm going to go on to View Blog. Oh, that's the wrong one. Hold on. I have a lot of blogs in Archive, or in Blogger, rather. Let me switch here to Demonic Sweaters Podcast. And I'm going to go to View Blog. And now, this blog is basically my podcast's homepage. Not basically, it is my podcast homepage. So every post, every new podcast that I make, I put it on this blog. And the reason for this is the blog working together with FeedBurner are what actually distributes your content. And let's see. So what this means is basically if I were going to upload a new podcast, and I'll just go ahead and walk you through all of this right now. Well, first, actually, though, let me show you one other thing. What you would need to do after you have your blog created, you're going to have to put the address of this blog, say this is your new blog, you're going to have to copy this, go into your FeedBurner account, which you set up, and then you're going to paste your blog address in here, and then you're going to check I am a podcaster, and then click Next. Once you do that, you'll end up with a item here, and this is basically my FeedBurner setup for my podcast blog. And what this does, once you basically have this set up, this will create this RSS feed here that I just clicked on, this little icon right here. This is the address. This address that gets created by FeedBurner, feeds.feedburner.com/demonic sweaters. It pulls all of its data from the Blogger blog. And then this actual address, feeds.feedburner address that you end up with, is going to be the address that you're going to submit to iTunes and to other podcast distributors. And this is the address that works with all of those. So when you basically what will happen then is once this is linked up to your Blogger blog, every time you upload a new podcast and publish it to your blog, your FeedBurner account will syndicate that and add it to this RSS feed, which will get sent out to iTunes or whatever podcast distributors you have submitted your podcast to. So, like I said, there's no need to pay a service to do this for you because this can be done using all free services online. Now, just to go over the full process of doing this, I'm going to show you how you would do it. So, the first thing you would do is say you have your MP3 from your podcast all completed and edited and it's on your computer. So what you're going to do first is you're going to go into archive.org and you're going to click on Upload. Once you do that, you're going to click on Upload Files and you're going to choose Files to upload. I'm just going to go back to that one that we created as an example. That's not where that was. Podcast example, that's it. Okay, so I'm going to open that up. And now here, this is where you're going to put in your podcast description. Okay, I just wanted to clear something up real quickly before we move on. That the description When you're entering your description into archive.org, this description is not going to get sent out to the podcast distributors. The description that will get sent out to the podcast distributors is the one that you put in your Blogger post. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just put one in archive.org and then copy and paste it into Blogger when I do the post there. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear before we moved on. Like if you had a guest or whatever, you're going to have as your description for your podcast. As an example, I can show you what I used on this one. Episode 32, I mentioned the total solar eclipse, blah, blah, blah. It just sort of, mentions what you talked about and any links that you want to put in there. So you're going to enter all that into there. You're going to call page title is going to be the name of your podcast, like the episode. So you could say, My Great Podcast, episode number 1, etc. Description is what I said before. Tags are just like hashtags anywhere else, so anything descriptive of your podcast you would type in there. Creator, you can put in your name or your pen name or your podcast name or whatever you want it to be. Date is going to be date published. Collection, just leave it at community audio. If it put in something else there by mistake, you could just select community audio. Test item, leave this set to no unless you just want to upload something, that will be removed after 30 days. You select yes. Language, select your language here. License, here's going to be the license that you're going to select. Usually I will do Creative Commons and prohibit commercial use. This tells people that they can redistribute it, but they can't sell it and they can't use it for commercial purposes. More options. This is something that you won't need. So once you get all of that set up or put in there, you just click upload and create your item. I'm not going to do that because I don't really want this on my account. But once you do, what's going to happen after that, I'm going to get out of here and go to my library. After you upload that item, another thing as well, when you upload your MP3, you can also upload your thumbnail for your podcast there as well. So if you created a special thumbnail for that episode, you can also upload it and it will automatically put it in this area. I don't know why this one came out so low resolution, but sometimes it just does weird stuff like that. But this isn't really totally necessary because all of this stuff on archive.org, the main thing that we want here is your MP3. So once you click upload, you're going to end up with a page like this. And then down here, you're going to have links to the files. And archive.org will automatically create a torrent, an OGG, rich text. Like it'll basically derive all these file formats from your MP3 and your image that you upload. But the one that we want is this VBR MP3. So what you're going to do now, after you upload that, you're going to right click this and click on copy link address. Now, here's where the cool part happens. So say you have your blog set up and you have it the way you want to look and you want to make your first post to get syndicated out to feedburner. So we're going to go to new post. Then you're going to put in a title. And then here you would put in your image and, your description. Okay, well, image, let me just give you one just so I can show you an example. Okay, and then add selected. You can resize this if you like. I usually do mine large or extra large. Okay, now here's where this gets really cool. On the right here, where you see this item that says links, what you're going to do is right here where it says enclosure links, you're going to paste that link that you had copied from archive.org. So let's paste that there. And what that is, it's a direct link to that MP3 file that is on archive.org. And then if you just click up in this other area, you'll notice that this section auto-populated to say audio/mpeg. That's exactly what you want. So you're done there. You can just click done. Labels, you can use this as tags. And then click done. Put in whatever relevant tags you have there. Then you're going to write in your description. I can't even spell blah. And then, you can format it and make it look the way you want to have it look. A lot of times what I'll do as well is, in addition to having the link for the MP3 being syndicated to my feedburner page, I also embed one in case people want to listen just on my blog itself, which is this thing right here, this little player. So to get that little player, what you do is you go back into archive.org on the page where you just uploaded it, and then you're going to go to share this item, and then you're going to use the embed code. You just copy that, and then you go back to your blog post. Where was it? Right here. And then you're going to switch over to HTML view in the editor, and then you're just going to paste that code into here. Let's go back into Compose, and now we should see the player down there. See? There it is. And you can either put that above or below the description, however you want to do it. So once you have all of that done, you're going to click Publish. And I'm not actually going to do it because I don't want to publish this to my blog. But let me go ahead and close that. And I'm going to delete this draft as well. Actually, no, I can leave that there. I might need it later. So let's go ahead, and once that is published, you'll end up with something like this on your blog. And then you'll also end up with something like this on your feedburner. And I didn't have to enter any of this in. Since we already registered our feedburner or our blog address within feedburner, every time you post to that blog, it will automatically go to your feed here. And so now we have all of that. These are all the feeds, or all the blog posts that I put on that blog. They all show up in this feed. And now what this feed's responsibility is, let me open up a player here so I can show you. Do I have VLC installed? I don't think so. So now if I go into podcasts and we go to Demonic Sweaters Podcast, this is what happens. So this feedburner made this go out to anybody that's subscribed to your podcast will automatically download this episode. See, these are all of the episodes that are right here in this feedburner page. And because we linked our blogger blog with our feedburner, every time you post a blog post into feedburner, and by embedding that MP3, or not embedding, by putting that in the enclosure links, which, just to refresh your memory, if we go back into here and we look at enclosure links, the link to our VBR MP3 file that we uploaded to archive.org is right here in the enclosure links. That basically sends that post with that enclosed MP3 to your feedburner page, which in turn gets distributed to anybody who's subscribed to your podcast in their podcast player rather. And this will automatically put that MP3 file as the podcast, or whatever length you have enclosed. I would go with MP3 though, because it is the most common type of file. So that's pretty much it. After you have all of that set up, the last thing you're going to need to do is start submitting your podcasts to services like iTunes and other. And we'll talk about that here a little bit in the next episode. All right, let's talk about Skype interviews. Using Skype for podcasts is very popular because then you can have guests and they can just call you on Skype and you can record those and then put them into your podcast. In Linux, it's possible to do this totally for free, and I'm going to go over that first with you here. The first thing that you're going to need is Skype, obviously. So you're going to go ahead and download that. You just go to Downloads. And I'm using Ubuntu 16.04 LTS. I'm not using the default graphics environment for that because it takes up too much resources, but it still is the same system. And then you would just download Skype for Linux Deb, and that would be for Ubuntu or Debian. This should work, but all of this testing has been done in Ubuntu 16.04 and it all works. So I would stick with that if you're using Linux, or if you're planning on using Linux for your podcasting. And we'll go over the other ones here in a minute. But so go ahead and download that and install it. And then you're going to want to install a few other tools. So don't open up Skype yet after you install it. You're going to want to go into your command prompt, and you're going to want to install qjackctl, which will automatically install the Jack audio connection kit as well if you just sudo apt-get install. As well as the pulseaudio-module-jack, which is this. And you're also going to want to install something called timemachine. And then you press enter. I already have all those installed, so it's not going to do anything for me. It'll tell them they're already the newest versions. But once you have all of those installed, then you already have everything you need to record Skype calls. So how would you do this? What you're going to need to do first is actually launch Jack using the qjack control, which is this. And it also can look like this little icon that looks like the little plug. Okay, so once you have that launched, you're going to get this screen with all these connection thingies on here. And as long as the pulse audio module for Jack installed correctly, you will also have something here that says pulse audio jack sync. If you don't have that yet, and pulse audio jack source, you will need to correct that. You should have it as long as that module installed. If the module didn't install, then you will be missing these and this won't work. But you will definitely want to have the pulse audio jack sync and pulse audio jack source. What that does, basically pulse audio is Linux default audio driver, and Jack is kind of like a low latency driver as well as a way to connect different sources to each other within audio, like different programs. You can plug them into each other. And with this, what we can do here is Skype. Let me just open up Skype. The newest version of Skype actually uses the Pulse Audio server for its audio. So any Skype settings within Linux, you'll notice there are no audio settings, and that's because it just uses whatever is set as the default for Pulse Audio, which is, this is my Pulse Audio mixer right here. And so as long as you have your, right now I have my microphone default set as jack source, which, if you remember correctly, is this. So that is my microphone for Skype. And my output devices are set to jack sync. And you can see that is right here in Pulse Audio Jack Sync.
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing service. After the beep, please record a message. Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Testing, 1, 2, testing, check, check. Testing, 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 1, 2, testing, check, check, testing, testing, testing.
If you are able to hear your own voice, then you have configured Skype correctly.
Okay, so as you can see, I was able to record Skype. Well, actually, I'm recording it right in this video using the same method that we're going to record it for the interview, which is basically by using the connections in the Jack Audio Connection Kit. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up our Time Machine recorder. Oops. And all Time Machine is a very basic audio recorder that's just basically a gigantic button, a gigantic record button. So if we see here, Time Machine, that now shows up in our Jack connection kit. So Pulse Audio Jack Sync, if you remember, that was our audio output for Skype. So let's go ahead and select that, then we'll select Time Machine, then we click Connect. And now we're going to do the same thing with System, because this is my voice. I'm using System Capture 1 as my voice, so I'm going to go ahead and connect that to Time Machine Channel 1 and Time Machine Channel 2, because I'm only in System Capture 1 on my interface, my microphone. And now you can see when I talk, you see this level going up here. Put in the wrong one. Let me try that again. There we go. So Capture 1 going to both audio input, or Time Machine input 1 and 2. And you can see my voice making the level of both of them go up. Now if we use Skype again and call the Skype testing service, we should see this level change again when the Skype recording is talking. So let's try that again.
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing service. After the beep, please record a message. Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Okay, so that seems like it's working. Let's go ahead and record a little bit. Just press the button. Okay, so that seems like it's working. Let's go ahead and record a little bit.
If you are able to hear your own voice, then you have configured Skype correctly. If you hear this message, but not your own voice, then something is wrong with your audio recording settings. Please check your microphone and microphone settings or visit skype.com for more help. Thank you for using the Skype call testing service. Goodbye.
Okay, now just to stop recording, we're just going to press the button again, and it stops. And let's go ahead and close Skype. And I'm going to open up my file browser. And just in the home directory, Time Machine creates files. Basically, it'll just create a recording file, and it just names it TM for Time Machine, and then there's a date stamp and a time stamp. So it's 2017 9/07 at 12:27 p.m. And then the format is a little bit of a strange format. It records in a W64, but essentially this is just a WAV file with a different container. And what you will see, though, is this will actually open up fine in Audacity. So if we right click it and then open with Audacity, Audacity is going to open up, and this is the Skype call that we just made. Let's check it out.
After the beep, please record a message. Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Okay, so that seems like it's working. Let's go ahead and record a little bit. Just press the button. Okay, so that seems like it's working. Let's go ahead and record a little bit.
If you are able to hear your own voice, then you have configured Skype.
All right, so now we just recorded a Skype call, but we don't really want to just go with just a Skype call. We want to be able to have our podcast and then import our Skype call into it. Okay, then we're going to open up our example from before. And now, say we have this podcast that we recorded and we wanted to add in our interview that we did via Skype. We're just going to go into File and then Import Audio. And then we're going to go back to our home directory where that Skype recording was saved. And we're just going to select that. And there it is. So now we want to add that Skype interview after our intro and our commercial. Let's go to View and then Fit Vertically so we can see all of the tracks in there. And then we're going to select our Time Shift tool and just slide this Skype interview over to here. And now we have it. And then we're going to go ahead and edit this. So let's.
After the beep, please record a message. Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Okay, so that seems like it's working. Let's go ahead and record. All right, so I think that should give you a good idea. A couple of other little tips you could do here is make sure everything is at the same volume. You could go to highlight each one of these tracks and go into Effect and then go to Normalize. And that'll make sure it gets it up to the correct audio level. You could also compress audio if you like. And sometimes I do that on the Skype interviews because sometimes one person can be a little bit quieter than the other. So we can go back into Effect and go to Compressor. Click OK on that. And now you can see how it kind of brought those levels up a little bit. Made them a little bit more even. So let's listen to that and edit this. So let's.
After the beep, please record a message. Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Okay, so we have our podcast all completed, put together. And then just like before, we're going to go to Export Audio, Example MP3. And then we're going to export that. And there you have it. We've just completed a full podcast with a Skype interview, exported it to MP3. You already know how to get it online and to get it distributed through FeedBurner. Now we just need to figure out how to get this podcast submitted to iTunes and other podcast services. Okay, so now we want to submit our podcast to iTunes. And a couple of things you'll want to go over first before you do this are Apple's requirements for podcasts. And those are listed here at itunespartner.apple.com/en/podcasts/overview. And you can just go there and read this for yourself. But a couple of the main things that you're going to need to know about are the feed and image requirements. So within FeedBurner, you have an option to set up a feed image. And what you're going to need to do is make sure that that feed image meets the requirements of iTunes. And that is maximum size of 3000 by 3000 pixels or a minimum size of 1400 by 1400 pixels. And it has to be in either JPEG or PNG format. So in order to do that, let's go ahead and look at our FeedBurner settings again. And we're going to go into My Podcast. And I believe this is in the Optimize section. Right, so we have Feed Image Burner right here. If we click that, we can see what I am using for my image. And this, I basically have this uploaded to my website. And if we take this address, copy that, and paste it in a browser, this is my podcast image. And this is just hosted on my WordPress page. But you could also upload your image to archive.org as well if you don't have anywhere to put it. That'd be another good place that you could put it. And then once you have that image uploaded somewhere, you're just going to go into the feed image burner within your feedburner page, and then paste that specify custom image URL here. And then image source will be specify custom URL. Image title is going to be whatever the name of your podcast is. And then the feed image link to the web address you specify here. This should get populated automatically. You shouldn't have to do that. And then once you have all that set up, you should be good to go ahead and submit your podcast, but you'll probably want to read through the rest of these with Apple. Go to your best practices. They do have some rules and things, so you'll probably want to read these to make sure that your podcast doesn't get banned or kicked out of the iTunes network or anything like that. But it's pretty hard to do. I've talked about some pretty crazy stuff on mine, and I've never been banned, so you should be okay. Once you have your image set up and everything like that is good to go, within the iTunes store, you're going to submit your podcast, which basically is going to be within the iTunes software. You're going to go into podcasts, and you'll see a link down on the bottom. I'm going to try to show you that. Oh, actually, no, I can show you a video. There's a good YouTube video that I will post a link to in the written sections that shows you all of that. And you just open it up in iTunes, and there's a link that says submit your podcast, and then you submit that. You just have to make sure you have the image requirements set up first, and the link that you're going to submit is your RSS feed link, which was right here, if you remember. That's just my feeds.feedburner.com/demonic sweaters podcast, or whatever yours ends up being. That is the link that you would submit to iTunes when you submit the podcast. Once you do that, people will come. You'll come up in the iTunes search, and people will be able to subscribe there. And this will enable it to get, sent out to everybody that subscribes through iTunes. Okay, besides iTunes, another really good one to use is TuneIn Radio. TuneIn Radio is an app that you can download for Android or iPhone, and it's a pretty cool service. It has a lot of different radio stations as well as podcast directory. So this one is very good to be a part of, and it's very simple to register with TuneIn. You just go to help.tunein.com/customer/portal/email/news/or ? Ticket. I'm not going to read all this out. I'll just paste the link in the written part of the description. But all you do is you go to that link, and then you're going to fill out all of the information here that they're asking you. So basically, what is your email address? What's the title of your podcast? Who the host is? What is the XML/RSS feed? Now this, again, is going to be your feedburner address feed, or feed address rather, feedburner feed address. That's the order I was looking for. But that, just a quick note on that feedburner address, that is your podcast URL. Anytime somebody asks you for the podcast URL to basically for syndication, that's always the URL that you're going to give them. The Blogger address is only something you would give to your friends or post on Facebook or something like that you want people just to basically see the homepage of your podcast. You can give them that Blogger address. But the URL that basically syndicates the shows to all of the software is always going to be your XML/RSS feed URL. And down below that, you're going to put in your logo, and you can just see choose file there. It'll pop up a browser or a file browser, and then your banner image, and that will be an image that's on the top of the of the TuneIn Radio page, and that's optional, I do believe. And then you can put in your country, or you have to put in your country and your language, and then your website address. And this is where you could put in your Blogger address right here. And then you put in your genres and your station email, an email that you can be contacted at, phone number, and Twitter account if you have one, and then any comments you want to put. Then you check the I accept and agree to terms and conditions and press submit. There's no charge to do this, just like there is no charge to do iTunes. And being with those two, you will be pretty much everywhere you need to be for people to find you. Another one that you may want to look into is something called iHeartRadio. And their process is a little more complicated to get involved with. But if you just go to iHeartRadio.com and search submitting a podcast, it'll take you to a link of something called Speaker. And you basically have to submit through a third party called Speaker, and that is how you get on iHeartRadio. But I'm not going to cover that in this tutorial just because it's a little bit weird, and I don't really think it's totally necessary either. I mean, if you really want to just get them out there as many places as possible, you could do that one too. But between iTunes and TuneIn, you're going to have a lot of people, and I would say the majority of everybody that listens to podcasts will find you with either of those two services. So, yeah, if you have any questions or comments, and you want me to go over anything else, or just any suggestions for this course or anything like that, just feel free to let me know, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And once again, thank you for taking this class, and hopefully you found this valuable, and you were able to get a podcast going with the help of this course. And yeah, thanks again. Take care, everybody.